Hi everyone, this is Hiba from My Little Journal, and today I'm going to do a flip through of the first half of my Project Life 2019 album. Now, I moved into a 6x12 album this year because I wanted something smaller but was still able to use the same format that I was using in my 12x12 album. And the Studio Calico album is amazing. I'm so happy that I switched. It's so much smaller, it's so much easier to store and look through than a 12x12 album. So I really definitely recommend this. Loving it. And I thought I would share the first half of my 2019 album. Now, when I use my 12x12, I end up with one album a year. But because I went smaller this year, I'm going to end up with two. And I'm okay with that because I'm really loving the size. And I think it's just so much better than the 12x12. I've been asked a lot about this if I'm going to end up with two albums, and yes, I will. But if you only use a 6x12 every week, you will end up with one. But because I use two 6x12 page protectors for each week, I am going to end up with two. Anyways, enough of that. Let's start with the flip through. I did add a color cast design acrylic just to add a little embellishment to my album, and it says Bits of Life. I just felt like it worked well with my Project Life album. I always start my album with a large family photo to kind of represent who this album is all about. And I got the 6x12 photo printed at Persnickety Prints. I always recommend them, especially those larger photos. The quality is amazing and the shipping is very, very fast. And I just embellished it with a Freckled Fawn 2019 little wood veneer. I believe it's a Freckled Fawn, if I'm not mistaken. It could be Ellie Studio. I'm not sure. If I find it, I will link it in the description box. But I do use these plastic dividers from Becky Higgins. I get them from Amazon, and I just stamp the month. And I believe I used Carrie Bradford's extra large Brooklyn Alpha stamps for that. I just like to kind of break down my months. I also did go back and add these acrylic, or not acrylic, acetate, like monthly cards from Studio Calico. Sometimes they fit in nicely with the colors and sometimes they did not. I guess I just didn't think about them while I was working in my spreads, but then thought I don't want to waste them, and I went back in and added them. Like this month it worked perfectly, the pinks and stuff, but you'll see in February I didn't feel like it matched really well. I kept them in. I don't know if I should leave them or not, but I really just didn't want to waste them and I wanted to use them. And I knew if I just said, oh, I'll use them next year, most likely Studio Calico will come up with something new and I would want to use those. So I just went ahead and added them. I'm just documenting New Year's, a new year for all of us. So I just kind of focused on that. In this spread, I believe it was my husband's birthday. So I was kind of documenting his birthday, little tidbits of the kids. I do like to add collages in my spreads, especially in a busy week like this. I went to Creativations in Arizona and I had a lot of photos. So I created two different collages and added them in a flip pocket. And if you've been watching my Project Life spreads, you have seen me create my own little flip pockets. It's very simple and easy. Definitely recommend them. I will add the playlist for my Project Life album for 2019 or my Project Life process videos if you want to check them out. I also do love using my ColorCast Design acrylics. They are just perfect for Project Life. I always stick them outside the pocket so they don't bulk up the pocket itself. And I've never had a problem of them falling off. I just use my strong tape runner for that. I try to add tabs to my flip pockets. A lot of times in my process videos, I forget to add my tabs, but I will go back in and add them because I know when I see a tab that there's a flip for that. And I was just documenting my birthday week. And you can see I do add a lot of flip pockets, especially this year I've been using my washi tape to create my flip pockets. One of the things I like to do when I'm working in my Project Life layouts is kind of pull from one certain photo and build from there. And I always end up with three main colors. Two usually are stronger than the third, but I just feel like when I stick to three colors, my layouts flow nicely. For example, I use this photo to build my colors and my cards. So I use the oranges, the pinks, the yellows, and you can see them kind of all over my spread. The orange and the yellow are stronger than the pink, but the pink is my third color, so it's just more of helping me add extra color and add that flow that I'm looking for. So usually it's always like the third color is always more muted, but it really does make an impact because it helps you kind of use up more of your embellishments when you have three colors than two or one. And you're kind of adding more interest to your spread. This is where I was talking about one of the acetates just didn't match a lot with my spread. But I just kept it anyway. I don't know if I should go back and take them out or whatever, but I just felt like I'm gonna go for it and just add them anyways. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I should leave them or take them out. Does it really make a difference? Is it a big deal? I don't know. I don't think it is a big deal. In the end, it's just project life. It's not like, you know, the end of the world or anything like that. This week, I got to meet Lisa. Forgot her name on Instagram, but I will link her in the description box. She's amazing crafter. We work on some of the same teams. I think we both work on Studio Calico and Colorcast Design. So we got to meet up, which was a lot of fun. Here's a spread where you can see I have the three colors. So I used the black, which I built from my photos. My daughter here is wearing black. This is a black and white photo. So I used the black and the yellow. Those are my main two. And then my third was this beautiful like blush pink. And I just added it using my embellishments. I really love the simplicity of the spread. I always have spreads like that throughout my Project Life album, where the spreads are simple. There's not a lot of embellishments. I don't think I used any of my embellishments here. I basically used my cards to create embellishments, and I really enjoy doing that. It's a great way to use up your cards, and those flip pockets are also a great way to use up your cards. But everything here, I cut this out of a card. I cut that out of a card. Everything else was stamps. That's a stamp. Those are the alphas, I believe, that came in the kit. This is a Kelly Perky kit. I do that a lot where I stick to a kit, and I also do go through my stash and work on a spread using my stash. Here's another flip pocket. I was just documenting my son going camping and just documenting little tidbits. This is a week where it was kind of simple, not a lot of things going on. I have a lot of those types of weeks. You can see, like, I only have one picture of my son, not a big deal. So I decided to use my ice cream photo to fill out my pockets, and that's okay because I didn't have a lot of photos going on. And I actually added my kids' names on their cups and mine. I also used this 3x4 card to add what we enjoy eating, like our favorite ice creams at the moment. Things like that are really important to me. I really enjoy reading through things like that. I'm not a big storyteller where I'm giving details of a story. I don't write sheets and sheets of storytelling. And you know what? That's okay. Don't ever feel like you have to do what everybody else is doing. Just do what you think works for you. And this works for me. I enjoy something like this where I get to see what my kids were eating at the time. Little stories like this about my son, his teacher putting his name in a question because my son was kind of questioning why the names in their math classes are always like your typical Jane and Jack and stuff like that. And they never used different ethnicity names, I guess. So his teacher changed it up and put his name instead. And my son was really amused by it. So I just kind of wrote about that, what we like to do on the weekends, things like that. You can fill out your Project Life layouts with cards, with little tidbits of stories if you like, or just fill them out with photos. This week was busy. I have a lot of photos. I didn't have a lot of stories to tell, so I ended up with a half a 3x4 card, just journaling about what was going on. And I usually do that where I'll talk about more than one thing or representing more than one story on my spread, but never feel like you have to have a bunch of photos or a bunch of journaling or anything like that. It's your project life. You do you. Yes, the story's important, but the photos are as important, and the story and the photos actually also tell the story. So don't feel like you have to journal a lot. This week I had a lot of stories to tell, so I used a 4x6 card, but I combined all the stories on my 4x6 card. So I talked about my son getting an award at school. I talked about our weekend and where we went and what we did. I love doing collages in my spreads, especially when it's a similar photo. So this was just 3 photos of my daughter being silly, and I wanted to use them all. So creating a collage like this was perfect. I do have a tutorial on what app I use to create my collages. I will try to link it up at the eye for you guys, but I use PicFrame to create these types of collages in my Project Life album. Here's something where we were kind of celebrating my niece's birthday. So there was a bunch of photos from that day, my son and I's weekly walk. Again, not much to say, so I kind of just documented those tidbits of week 13. I love the spread. I used one of my Feed Your Craft kits. Again, like I said, sometimes I stick to the kits only to create my spreads, especially when I want to be fast, because I'm not going through my stash and looking for all kinds of cards and embellishments. Maybe sticking to your kit is for you if you just want to create quick layouts. And that's what I did for this one. I love my little flip here talking about food, because that's one of my favorite things to do is eat. And also I like documenting the little things, like something like this where my daughter and I, we love to do a puzzle every month, and we just leave it on our dining room table and work on it every once in a while. So it would probably sometimes take us a month, sometimes it'll take us 2 days. It just depends how free we are. And I like documenting things like that. That stuff is really important to me. It's not just the big things. I do also like to document the big things, like my son going to prom. This was junior prom. I had a lot to say, so I journaled plenty here. And I had a lot of photos, so I ended up with 2 spreads documenting his prom night. I have a little flip pocket here as well. I was out of tabs, so I created my tab using some stickers, circle stickers. I also like documenting what I'm watching and my favorite shows. And that week, Game of Thrones started. I'm a huge fan. It was the last season. So I always try to throw things like that in my project life, even though I do document a lot of these things in my traveler's notebook. But when it's Game of Thrones, it has to go in my project life as well. My son kind of played the intro music for Game of Thrones for me, and I wanted to add that as well. Stories like this make my day. My friend and I were really angry with our kids because they weren't talking, so we took like a angry selfie photo, and I journaled about that story because I do want to remember that. I want my kids to remember that. So little stories like that are so much more important to me than the big ones. My son getting his first bank account or opening his first bank account. This week was not that wonderful. There was not a lot of photos. There was not a lot of things going on. So I kind of documented my flowers. I documented my coffee. My daughter started painting on pennies and they were adorable. So I had to document that, just journaled about that. She got a new art pad for her laptop and she was excited about that. Her dad got her that as a surprise. So I just kind of wrote about the little things, but nothing major, nothing amazing. I even probably added that photo to just fill out that pocket. It's nothing exciting or anything like that, just being silly. I do like to add inserts when I have a lot of photos from the week. I've been asked how I create these inserts or where I buy them. I actually buy the 3x4 pocket, 6x12 pocket page protector, and then trim off 3 of those 3x4 pockets, if that makes sense. And I'll end up having a 3x12 insert. I like to do that because if I used a full one, I would have to fill the whole thing out, but I don't have that many photos. And this one just works out perfectly because I can add those extra photos in there and add my cards, and I'm good to go. I prefer that than using a whole sheet. I never throw away whatever I trimmed off. I end up using those as pockets or flip pockets for my cards. Here's another little flip pocket there. So in week 19, my daughter went to Disney World. And if you guys know me, I'm not big on themes. I don't purchase a lot of themed papers and embellishments. I'm more of that type of crafter that likes simplicity and embellishments that work for anything or any layout. I feel like you get more out of your products or your supplies if you're purchasing, simple supplies that go with everything. And you can always make the cards themed if you wanted to. And that's what I did. I used Kelly Perky's kit, her main kit, and I used one of her Disney themed stamps to make my cards seem like they were Disney themed cards. And it was so easy, so simple. Like I just stamped out the Disney ears. I prefer my themed cards to be simple as well, so I don't really go all out. I stamped the castle on one card. I think that was really it. I stamped out Disney. That's themed enough for me. I can't go with too much Mickey ears and too much, Disney themed cards. I think that is plenty. It really still shows that she went to Disney. Like basically just looking at my title card, you can tell I'm documenting Disney photos. So I like that more than the busyness of, themed cards and papers and stuff. And all the photos here on this side especially were sent by her to me. My kids are really good at when they travel to take pictures for me, or if they're somewhere I'm not, they always remember to take photos. And I also always remind them. I probably sent her 3 to 4 texts while she was gone, letting her know that she better not come home without photos. So I'm big on it. They know I'm big on it. So they always try to take photos and send me as many as possible. Their photos usually aren't the best. I end up like kind of changing it up in black and white, things like that, playing around with the brightness and things like that. But I'd rather a photo than no photo. So I'm okay with whatever they send me. In week 20, I also ended up adding an insert. I was documenting my daughter graduating from middle school and her 8th grade dance. So there was a lot to say, a lot to document. Again, another 3 picture collage. She's being silly, so I wanted to use all of them. So creating these collages don't take up a lot of space. And it's, it looks really cool. I like them a lot. And by the way, some weeks I'm more focused on my daughter than my son because something like important was going on with her and vice versa. And that's okay. I never feel guilty if I'm focused on one person or one member in the family. Sometimes I'm just focused on myself. Maybe I have like a big thing going on, like when I went to Creativation. So I never feel guilty. I always recommend just tell the story. It doesn't matter if you're documenting more of your daughter that week than your son, or vice versa. It's not a big deal. I always feel like if the story is there about him, like he gets a lot of marching band photos, and I document him a lot in like August, September, October, and that's okay. If there was a story for her, I'm gonna add it as well. And they never ever comment like, oh, why does she have more photos than I do, or vice versa. It just works like that, and they know that. I would never prefer one over the other. It just depends on their story. By the way, this spread, if you can see, I did not use not one embellishment, and it still turned out amazing. So this is an example where you don't have to have a lot of supplies to document your photos in your Project Life album. I literally used my cards here to kind of add a little something to my photos, and I used my stamping, and I actually just used here my stamping as an embellishment, but you can see I didn't use any of my embellishments. Document the good, the bad, the ugly. I still document tough moments. This was a tough moment for us. My son was not well, ended up in the hospital. It was a scary moment. It was a tough moment, but I still documented it because when I look at it today, I see the love from my family, from our friends. I see um, more good than bad, if that makes sense. And I always recommend this. Still document those hard moments, still document the tough days, because when you go back and you look at that layout, you will see the good that happened from those bad days, if that makes sense. And I look at this, I see the love from my parents, from my siblings, from my family, and the love of his friends to him. Just the little things make a big difference. The week after my son got sick, they got to go to France, and I'm so grateful that he was able to go to France and not get sick. So I wanted to document his France trip in my project life, but I didn't want to add all the photos. There was lots and lots of photos. I knew I was going to do a like vacation travel album for him. So I just kept it to one spread. I was really good at it. I just chose a few photos that I really, really loved and wanted to represent his trip in my project life album or our family project life. I had a flip to be able to add more. And I did add his itinerary, just tidbits of his itinerary, because I thought that that's a great way to remember what they did in France. And also for him, like when he looks through this album, I think it would be a lot of fun. We do also have a family share location, and I love to use that when they travel. It's kind of fun to add that in my project life. Now that week, which is week 23, I believe, I was still documenting some photos from his France trip and what we did back home. I ended up with 3 layouts for week 23. We did a lot of stuff that week, and because I documented his trip on 2 spreads here, I just ended up with 3 full spreads. Anyways, another 6x12 photo of them in France. I love this photo, so I had to add it. My niece and I went and saw Florence and the Machine live, so of course I had to document that. So that's full spread number 2. And then my 3rd spread, I was still documenting the little things that we were doing. We were celebrating Eid holiday with my family. My husband and I and my siblings, we all went out on a date night. So I wanted to also document those things. So I ended up with 3 full spreads. And that's not a big deal. I am okay with that. So when my son came back from France, a few days later, my daughter and husband flew overseas. They went to Amsterdam and Dubai. So kind of sending off one kid, welcoming him back home, and then sending off the other and welcoming them back home. It was a crazy summer. I swear to you, we ended up at the airport like a million times that summer. But anyways, to represent that, my daughter and husband were leaving. I just took a picture of their luggage. They sent me a picture while they were in Amsterdam, so I wanted to add that. The day before, or the day of her leaving, she was really upset, and I took a picture of her. You can't really see her sad face, but it was this whole side of my spread was about her and my husband going to Amsterdam and Dubai. And this side was about me and my son. We had a lot of special moments together, spending over a month together, just him and I. We went to watch Aladdin. We are huge fans of Aladdin, and we went and got to see that. So I was kind of like, documenting tidbits of that week. Again, a lot of these photos are of my son because my daughter is overseas. So the focus was more on him, just him taking driver's ed, him driving, taking his senior pictures. This photo actually was sent by my daughter, who took a picture of the beach in Dubai. And I just kind of added her location and a little bit of journaling about her and the hubby being in Dubai. This is one of my favorites. It's so simple, but I just love the colors, and I love pool photos. They are definitely a favorite. Documenting us at the pool. My son got some of his senior pictures back. Just kept it simple. I think I used Kelly Perky's swag bag to create the spread, and I love her swag bags. She's been adding those every month and every release, and they are my favorites. You get like cards, you get embellishments, and just this, I literally just used the swag bag, I believe, on the spread. Of course, some of my own stamps. And that little watermelon is from Colorcast Design. But I have to tell you the story. Yes, this is still week 26. You can see week 26, another week 26. I had this major brain fart. So this is the story. I created week 26, which is this one. And I had a lot of extra photos, so I printed these photos to have like 2 week 26 spreads, okay? So, but I didn't have time to work on them that day, and I left them aside. When I came back a few days later, I was kind of confused, like, what are these pictures? I already did week 26. So why did I print these out? Thinking, oh, maybe this is week 27. But I knew that week 27 was the 4th of July, and these photos are not from the 4th of July. It confused the heck out of me. But I was focused on, okay, I guess I'm off, and week 27 is not the 4th of July. So I went ahead and documented this, thinking I'm documenting week 27. And it's kind of funny because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I'm kind of wrong, but why am I still doing it? I don't know if you guys have ever had that type of moment. But anyways, I ended up finishing it up. And then I decided to look at my Get to Work book, because that is my go-to when it comes to project life, to make sure I'm on the right week with the right photos. And I was totally wrong. So I just went ahead, changed the card, added week 26. So I ended up with 2 week 26s. And obviously week 27 is in July, so that will go in my next album. I will finish up my album with a photo of my grandfather. My grandfather passed away that month, and I wanted to represent that and add a special photo of him. I'll actually show you the photo that I'm going to use. I already ordered it, so I'm just waiting on it to come in. But this is the photo of my grandfather with my kids. My kids were so little at the time, and I wanted to document this photo in my project life as well. So I'm going to end up adding the 6x12 photo of my grandfather, and I'll probably just add some journaling on the bottom. I thought I would probably kind of add all the little things that I love about him and will miss about him. Anyways, that is it, you guys. You can see how easy it is to go through this 6x12 album. So much easier than a 12x12, and I'm loving it so much, and it doesn't weigh a ton. And even your little kids can go through these albums with no problem. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Bye.